Mike Shoesmith. Well, tell us about Tim Tebow has messed up again, in my humble opinion. Tell us what you know about.
Now you're a man of science, so correct me if I'm wrong here. But isn't it required to have a spine when you play football?
I think it is. The last time I checked, medically speaking, I think you're supposed to have a spine if you're going to play football. But listen, tell our listeners. I mean, I know all about it. You will know all about it. But most of our listeners have not heard this story yet. So tell our listeners what has happened, and then let you and I break down what it was that Dr. Robert Jeffress said that apparently kept Tim Tebow from speaking in his church. But you just break the whole story down to us.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's the quarterback for the Jets, and he was supposed to appear at the mega church in Texas,
First Baptist Dallas.
Yeah, the pastor there is Robert Jeffress, and Jeffress has made some remarks about about homosexuality and about the president, et cetera, other religions, and none of the remarks that he's made have been proven false. It's kind of like that guy who said that women who are being raped have some sort of a mechanism that they have fewer instances of pregnancy. And it was people from both sides of the aisle jumped all over this guy as though he was some sort of crazy man. And then it turns out he's right.
Right.
And the same thing is true with this Jeffress guy. I mean, he said that he was lambasted for saying that 70% of homosexuals have HIV.
And what he said we shouldn't have them in the military because 70% of the homosexual males have HIV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, that is the exact disclaimer put out by the government through the Center for Disease Control website.
Exactly. And I posted that to our P.P. Simmons Facebook. I posted those stats this morning because people are lambasting Jeffress for saying something that sounds politically incorrect. But as you just said, those are the exact stats put out by the government website, right. Center for Disease Control.
And, the Center for Disease Control, they don't care about relationship aspects to it all. They just put out the facts. And it's, you can go to the Center for Disease Control website, and you can look at their page on it. It's the MSM page. Essentially, the MSM page is just men who have sex with men.
Right.
And the stats are devastating here.
I know. They're horrible.
And if you want an education on what people are being, what the lifestyle is doing to society as a whole, visit the MSM page at the Center for Disease Control. This will be a real eye-opener for you guys.
Yes, it will. And listen, Mike, I've got to add this. So what happened is Tim Tebow was supposed to speak at First Baptist Church of Dallas. And that's one of the largest churches in America. It's a solid Southern Baptist church. Dr. Robert Jeffress, been there for 20 years, I think. He's an outspoken, conservative Bible preacher. A prince of preachers. And of course, he's known for making some of these statements that are politically incorrect, but they're entirely accurate. And we're going to go through them in just a moment. And Tim Tebow has canceled his speaking engagement at the First Baptist of Dallas, quote, because of Jeffress' controversial statements. And every one of Jeffress' statements are either biblical or are scientifically accurate or are or have not been proven to be not accurate. Did I say that correctly? I know I bumbled around a little bit, but I'm pretty hot about it.
My biggest concern here, though, is I'm going to read something to you. It's very short.
Okay.
And then I'm going to tell you who said it.
Okay.
This is what was said. Question. This guy's being interviewed. He says the person doing the interview says, question, is birth control part of the solution? The answer here will amaze you. This is the answer this person said. It says, yes, but you can't legislate these problems away. You've got to get people to understand the need for it. What is it? I'll tell you what it is in a moment.
Right.
And then he says, this will shock you. He says, the more important people, the ones who have responsibilities, have got to do it because they're at the receiving end. They've got to accept the measures. Now, what are these measures, and who are these important people? This was said in a December 21st, 1981 interview in People magazine. The person being interviewed was Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. Now, who was Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh? He is Queen Elizabeth's husband. And he is a big-time supporter of population reductionism. And the more important people are the elitists, are the ones who are in charge. And he is saying that they have got to accept the measures. Now, that was back in 1981. And now, today, we have entire groups of people being led down a trail of acceptance when it comes to their certain proclivities, certain lifestyle choices. And, why did Barack Obama make such an evolutionary leap in 4 years from being in support of the Defense of Marriage Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, one man, one woman, to now openly embracing and fighting for and championing for the homosexual lifestyle?
Yeah, well,
because he is one of the more important people.
Right, and you and I know that he really didn't make a transition. The transition he so-called made was just a media smokescreen, because we knew his record, we knew his background, we knew his history. We told people before he was elected where he was going to go with this, and we were called racist for saying it, but we were right.
Right, and Tim Tebow, he had a tremendous opportunity here. He has a platform.
Yeah.
And he could be one of those people who are outlining what we have reached a point now where all the Western world has accepted the myth of deep time evolution, that people are animals, right?
Right.
Now, if we're all animals, one of the aspects of animal husbandry is a thing called culling.
Yeah.
And culling is essentially you take out whenever numbers become too great in a certain herd, a certain population of animal, you take out the reproduction aspect of that herd. You kill those who are doing the reproducing. And that is culling. So Here we have the dynamics set in place now. This is what Prince Philip called the measures. We have those dynamics, those measures in place today. These elitists, these more important people, folks, are culling humanity right now.
Right.
We are being culled like animals.
Right.
We've been talked into believing we are animals, and now the herds, the reproducers, because let's face it, there's two things going on here like we outlined with the homosexual community. One is they are at vast oceans above everybody else when it comes to their susceptibility to disease and death.
Yep.
Okay?
A Center for Disease Control, they bear that out. They bear that fact out, what you just said. Go ahead.
And that's men. Now, women, lesbian women, are at a 50% greater risk of cancer. Mm-hmm. So there's two things going on here. One is these people are dying from this behavior. Mm-hmm. The other is they don't reproduce.
Right.
So what's happening here? Society, the Western world, is being culled.
Yep.
By the more important people who, let's face it, the elitists, the more important people, as they say, they don't live liberal lives.
Right.
They don't live like that.
No, they don't.
They live, now, I've read study after study, 80% of the most successful people on this planet, Carl, and I know you know this, are still with their first wife.
Yeah.
80% of the most successful men in the world, 80% of them have found the secret to success is getting married early, staying married.
Well, see, and that's why I tell people I unashamedly, unapologetically come at life from a biblical worldview. And I will do that till the day I draw my last breath. I will base my life upon the truth of God's Word, because what you just said is the truth of God's Word, and it has borne out, and it is still bearing out statistically and scientifically to this day.
It's the only antidote to the culling. We're going to be doing a series of articles on this. This is an amazing revelation. We're finding out more and more about this attempt to cull humanity and to cut down on the numbers of people on the planet by introducing liberalism as a disease into the herd.
Right.
I mean, these are amazing things we're discovering here, folks. But you know what? Carl just pointed it out. The Bible is a word that stands for basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Yeah, B-I-B-L-E.
Right, B-I-B-L-E. And it is the only antidote to this culling that's going on in society. And if you're trapped in the homosexual lifestyle, ppsimmons at live.com, we've counseled several people out of it. Listen, folks, get out of the cull. You're being culled by this disease of liberalism. You think you're free. You're not free. You're being herded into a place of destruction.
Well, listen, and the abortion holocaust was started by Margaret Sanger for the purpose of culling. She said so. She said so.
Right.
So now we have the radical homosexual agenda, which is doing the same thing to an entirely different segment of the population. So between the abortion agenda and the radical homosexual agenda, the population, the herd, is being culled, and these people don't even know it. They're running around.
These are the measures. These are the measures for the culling that's happening in society today. You guys got to get the truth about this.
Thank you. And they're running around waving little rainbow flags or doing little parades, pro-choice parades, thinking that they're all enlightened and they're part of the elite, and they're being culled. They're being killed by the elite.
That's exactly what's happening here. Liberalism is killing the herd. Now, on the homosexuality thing, we have documented the connection not only between homosexuality and pedophilia, which is what the Boy Scouts are afraid of, by the way.
Right.
We've documented that homosexual men are generally responding to a lack of love from their father and an overbearing mother. You know, the TV show Keeping Up Appearances, it's a British sitcom. Ironically, the mother is tremendously overbearing. The father is a coward, and the son is a homosexual. So there we have the classic example, documented by experts, by the way, art imitating life.
Right.
Because that is the classic. If you want to have a recipe for a homosexual man, the recipe is an over-involved mother and under-involved father.
Right.
And that is the classic example. Now, we have, if you go to... you can email me, ppsimmons@live.com. I have all of this research. I can send it to you, no problem.
Right.
And it documents several famous cases. You know, everyone from Rock Hudson to Anderson Cooper, who never knew their fathers.
Right.
I mean, this is you know, psychologists have documented the link here. I mean, so in order for this cull to happen that we talked about before the break, this sort of activity has to become normalized, and people like you and I have to be silenced.
Right.
And people like Tim Tebow, they have to not be given the platform so that people will look at him, somebody who's admirable, and say, look, if Tim Tebow is against this, maybe we need to take another look at this.
Right.
But you've got the elitists saying, you know, people have to accept the measures that are necessary to get the job done here and cull the population, thin the herd.
Right.
Because, you know, even though the entire population of the planet would likely fit in Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, no, that's exactly right.
Or at least in the state of Texas, you could fit the entire population of the planet.
Well, actually, the statistics are if you gave everybody 2 square feet of land to stand upon, that everybody on the planet would fit in the city limits of Jacksonville, Florida.
That's right. And I've seen those numbers. I've done the math myself. It works. And yet people are out there saying there's too many people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. There's an agenda here we just can't accept.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Mike, we've got 15 seconds. Tell everybody where to find you and all your stuff.
PP Simmons on YouTube, PP Simmons on Facebook, PP Simmons on Twitter, ppsimmons@live.com is our official email address. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike. That's Mike Shoesmith, our Canadian correspondent from Toronto, Canada, to Freedom Friday. Been with me from the beginning, and you can see why.